Hello everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday night Tehillim shir. I'm a little bit pressed for time tonight, so the shir might be a little bit abbreviated, but I wanted to make sure to at least get in a shir. So we're continuing in Kapitel Chavav, and I remembered that last week there was something that I wanted to mention, and that is on Pasuk Gimel. So Pasuk Gimel in Perek Chavav, David HaMelech says, Ki chastecha leneged einoi, because your chesed, David HaMelech says to the Rebbeinu Shalom, your chasadim, your kindness, leneged einoi, they're always in front of my eyes, v'hishalachti ba'amnitecha, and I travel in your truth. The concept of ki chastecha leneged einoi is something that we've touched upon, but I think it's something that is critically important nowadays. And I'll tell you what I mean. I personally always harbor I guess you would call it a fantasy. If I go and I travel, let's say in upstate New York, I remember driving from Ellenville in Ulster County, going out to Cleveland to visit my children in Cleveland. And when you go from upstate New York to Cleveland, you travel for hours and hours and hours and hours on the 86. And first of all, it gives you just an indication of just how large New York State is. It's massive. You drive for hours and hours and hours and hours. And when you go that route, you really travel. The only word I could think of is like unspoiled country. You know, you go and you're traveling through the mountains and the rolling hills and the streams and the rivers, and you pass farmland and trees and trees and trees and trees. And when I look at it, I always feel like one day this is where I want to live. give me a log cabin on top of a hill with plenty of land around, quiet, solitude, mountain view. Give me a fireplace and I'm set. I'm good. Now, the truth is that it's a fallacy. What is it that's tempting? What is it that tempts me when I see that? What is it that tempts me when I see the pictures of it? Or I see video footage of somebody who lives that way? The answer is that it's not the scenery, it's not the emptiness, it's the quest for serenity. That's what it is. Somehow you imagine that, take me out of the city, take me out of the hustle and bustle, and put me out in the mountains, and suddenly life becomes so much simpler, so much quieter, less noise, less traffic. The problem is it's not true at all. Life becomes more complicated and life becomes harder, in essence. You're not running away from the things that you have to do. You're not successfully going to run away from the pressures that are on you. If you have pressures in your life nowadays, in the life that you're living, so imagine you have to go shopping. Well, the stores are much closer by if you live in the city than if you live out in the sticks, especially if you need kosher shopping, if you need a kosher grocery. If you live in the New York metropolitan area, wherever you are, you have kosher shopping. Even I, who live, out in the boondocks in Staten Island, still, Lakewood is 45 minutes away. Borough Park is a half an hour away. Have a grocery store on Staten Island also. So everything is just going to be harder. Your shopping is going to take longer. The schooling for your children is going to be far more complicated. Whatever you need is going to be harder. If you're here, you have a Home Depot 5 minutes away. If you're over there, it might take you 45 minutes to get to a local Home Depot. Nothing is going to be simpler. Nothing is going to be easier. But there's an illusion. There's an illusion of escaping from the hustle and the bustle and the pressures of everyday life, and you imagine yourself sitting on the porch, sipping a coffee, looking out over the mountains. But is that life? Is that what you want to do? Do you want to sit on the porch and sip a coffee? That's not what we do. That's not what we're living in this world for, to sit on the porch and sip a coffee. And if you need 5 minutes to sit on the porch and sip a coffee, I have a porch here too. I have a deck in the back of my house. I could go out on the deck and I could sip a coffee. So what you're really chasing is you're really chasing an illusion. But the question is, as much as you look at it and you say it's an illusion, there is something there. There's something real there that you are looking for, and it is something which is attainable. And that is the magic word that I said before, serenity. Serenity is not unattainable. Serenity is attainable. How do you get it? The answer of how you get it is Amunah and Bitachon. My Rebbe, Reb Ruven Zolazan Gesund, he used to say all the time, Chazal tell you, Shuv Yom Echad Kaidem Misascha. Chazal adjure a person, he should make sure to do tshuva one day before he dies. You want to come up to Shemayim with a clean slate. You don't want to come up to Shemayim burdened by your averes. So Chazal give you a very practical eitzah. Make sure you do tshuva one day before you die. The problem is that eitzah doesn't seem to be very practical at all. You don't know when you're going to die. A person doesn't know when his time is up. So how do you make sure to do tshuva one day before you die? The answer, of course, is that what Chazal are really telling you is do tshuva every day. Make sure every day you take an accounting. You do a cheshbon hanefesh. You know where you're holding. And every night before you go to sleep, do tshuva. Doesn't mean necessarily that the tshuva that you do on a nightly basis is going to be a perfect tshuva. Doesn't mean necessarily it's going to be a complete tshuva. But tshuva doesn't really have to be all that complicated. Like everything else in life, tshuva comes in many levels. There is a tshuva that could be done very, very quickly. I'll never forget the first time I was involved, the first time I was in a bezdin where we did a get, where we were mesader a get, a divorce. So the halacha is, if you're an aid, if you're a witness on a get, a rasha is pasal eidus. A rasha, a wicked person, a rasha, is not a kosher aid. So if somebody is going to be an aid on a get, the mesader, the rav who's organizing the get, the rav who's in charge of the proceedings, always looks at the eidim before the get, and he says, do tshuva. In case you have something, in case there's an avera that you have in your hands that labels you as a rasha, you're not a kosher aid. We're giving a woman a get, we're breaking off her marriage, we're rendering her able to marry another man. That get has to be a kosher get, it has to be an effective get. It needs kosher eidim. So we warn the eidim, do tshuva. So the first time I had this experience, the mesader looks at me and he says, no, tshuva. So I started laughing. I said, tshuva. How many minutes are you going to give me? What does that mean? Yom Naram, Rosh Chodesh El comes along and we're all worried about tshuva. We say slichas every day and we try to spend the time thinking about it. And here the mesader Gittin wants you to do tshuva in 30 seconds. But the truth is that there is a level of tshuva which is very basic, which is a level of tshuva where you look at the Rabbeinu Shalom and you say, I know I did a chet. I know I did a chet. That's vidui. I'm verbally acknowledging the fact that I did a chet. That's the first prerequisite for tshuva is vidui. Charata. I regret it. I do regret it. Baruch Hashem, a kosher Yid does regret when he does a chet. We're not talking about Yidin chas v'chalila that recognize the Barei Olam u'miskaven limroid boy. We're not talking about stoim. Anshe sedoim roim v'chatoim la'Hashem ma'oid. Rashi says Yodev as Bayram, they recognize their creator u'miskavdim limroid boy, and they want to rebel against him. That's Baruch Hashem. That's not us. We do chatoim. We have a taiva. We do a chet. We have an Nisayan. We can't withhold an Nisayan. So we slip up. We do a chet. But we certainly don't want to do the chet. We have charata that we did the chet. So we have vidui, we have charata. No, the toughest one is you need Kabbalah ala osid. You have to have a Kabbalah, an acceptance that you're not gonna do the chet again. No, I make a Kabbalah al ha'osid that I'm gonna really try. I'm working on it. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try different ideas. I'm gonna try different things. I'll change my seat in shul, so I shouldn't be sitting next to that guy who likes to talk to me, and we trip up, and eventually we start talking Lashon Hara. Whatever it is, there are things that I'm gonna try. I might not be perfect, but that tshuva is also a tshuva. So Chazal tell us, do tshuva every day, because you never know. Now, why do I bring up this Maamar Chazal? The real reason I bring up this Maamar Chazal is because if you read between the lines of this Maamar Chazal is telling us another thing which is very important, and it's very apropos to the times that we're living in. Again, my Rebbe Reuven Zolazan Gesund, he would always give an example. He would give a mashal. He would say, imagine you have two women, two married women. One is married to an accountant, and the other one is married to a fireman. Okay. The one who's married to the fireman, she has worry lines under her eyes. Maybe a police officer, maybe would be a better example. She has worry lines under her eyes. She always looks fadaiget, worried. People ask her, what's the matter? She says, every day I say goodbye to my husband, and I don't know what's going to be. Who knows? He's going out to do his job. He goes out to the projects. He goes who knows where. And I worry. Every day I worry sick until I see him when he comes back home. The wife of the accountant, no, her husband goes to work. Her husband comes home. What is she afraid of? Is she afraid that the adding machine is going to attack her husband? She was never worried that the adding machine was going to attack her husband. So the wife of the accountant is not sitting at home worrying. Now here's the interesting thing. Check the statistics. Statistically, even in the crazy days that we live in, with the way people look at police officers and the threats that police officers are under, statistically speaking, overall, it's not that dangerous a job. And the accountant drives to work every day. Driving in a car is a tremendous risk. Take a look at the statistics. If you commute for an hour every day, what are the statistics? What are the dangers of driving? I don't know ultimately if one is really more dangerous than the other. And yet, this one is afraid, and this one is not afraid. Now, how do you take away the fear? When you have these kind of fears, how do you take away the fear? So like my Rebbe would say, there's really two ways to take away a fear. One way is to be ignorant of the fear. The wife of the accountant, the reason she's not afraid, the real reason she's not afraid, is because she's ignorant of the dangers that her husband is exposed to on a day-to-day basis. Everybody's used to getting into the car and driving to work. Nobody considers it a risk. Nobody considers it dangerous. Nobody studies the statistics of traffic accidents. to sit at home and worry about it. So the lack of fear is really based on a lack of facing up, of acknowledging and recognizing the danger. The wife of the police officer has no choice. She can't ignore the danger. Everybody knows the police officer is a dangerous job. So she doesn't have the benefit of ignorance. When they say ignorance is bliss, they're not joking. Ignorance really is bliss. If somebody is ignorant of the dangers, then he's blissful. But is that a successful way of avoiding fear? Do you just make yourself ignorant and not pay attention to the dangers of life? It's not really an effective method of fear management, of anxiety management. But there is another way. The other way is emunah and bitachon. I said that if you read between the lines of the Maimer Chazal, Shuv yom echad kaidem misascha. Chazal tell you do tshuva every day. Why? Why should you do tshuva every day? Because you never know when your time is up. You never know when it's your last day. You don't know when you're going to die. Now, Chazal are telling you, you should do tshuva every day. That means that every single day you should acknowledge the very real possibility that it's your last day. That means that a person is living on a daily basis, acknowledging and understanding that it's possible that today is his last day. Now, who wants to live that way? How do you live that way? How do you live that way without being stressed? How do you live that way without being tense and uptight and uncomfortable? Maybe today's my last day. Maybe today's my last day. The fear of death. A person would say, go to a therapist. You can't live that way. So how should I live? I should ignore it. I should ignore everybody dies at some point. Should I ignore it? Well, maybe you should ignore it until you're 80. Okay, so when I'm 80, then I should start living with the anxiety that every day might be my last day? Then you'll say, well, push it off till you're 85. Thank God you're in good health. Start worrying about it when you're 85. No. Chazal say you gotta live with it every day. But Chazal don't want you to be an anxious wreck. Chazal don't want you to be uncomfortable. Chazal don't want you to be worrying every day. Oh my gosh, I might die tomorrow. What a person has to do is, a person has to have the emunah and bitachon. A person has to have the understanding that every second of every minute of every hour of every day, he's completely in the hands of the Ribbono Shel Olam. He's being held by the Ribbono Shel Olam. The Ribbono Shel Olam is not just holding your hand. The Ribbono Shel Olam is holding you like a mother holds a baby. That's how the Ribbono Shel Olam is holding you. You're completely in the Ribbono Shel Olam's hands at all times. And the Ribbono Shel Olam takes care of you. You want to see that the Ribbono Shel Olam takes care of you? David HaMelech says, Ki chastecha leneged einoi. Look at the tremendous chasadim that the Ribbono Shel Olam does for you all the time. All the time. You have a family? Have you thanked the Ribbono Shel Olam for your family? Do you realize the chasadim that the Ribbono Shel Olam did for you? That you have a family? You've had parnasa till now, you've made it. By hook or by crook, this way, that way. Now it was tight, then it was a little better, then it was a little harder. But over the long haul, the Ribbono Shel Olam took care of you. You ate 3 square meals today. You made it through. You got the kids through school. You had the car fixed. You had the roof fixed. Somehow, betwixt and between, everything worked out. The Ribbono Shel Olam is taking care of you. Ki chastecha leneged einoi. If you have the chasadim of the Ribbono Shel Olam, always front and foremost in your mind, if you have those chasadim of the Ribbono Shel Olam, the kindness and the goodness of the Ribbono Shel Olam in front of you, then serenity is not hard to find. And when I say serenity, I want you to understand what I mean by serenity. I remember one time there was an important phone call that I was waiting for. All right, so you're waiting for the phone to ring, you're waiting for the phone to ring, you're waiting for the phone to ring. Then I had to daven mincha. It was already close to Shkia. I have to daven mincha. So I started davening mincha. Sure enough, 45 seconds into Shemona Esrei, the phone rings. You're in the middle of Shemona Esrei. What are you going to do? All right, you ignore it. 30 seconds later, phone rings again. 30 seconds later, the phone rings again. So you start getting agitated. This is that important phone call that I've been waiting for all day. How many times is the guy going to call? This is a guy who's very hard to get hold of, and when he has a minute till he's finally going to call, and I've been trying to arrange this phone call for 2 weeks. The guy called already 4 times. If he doesn't get me, he's going to give up. I don't know what's going to happen. Am I going to get him? Am I not going to get him? So you get all agitated. Why are you getting agitated? Whose hands are pulling the strings? Who arranged that the phone call should come in now? The Rabbeinu Shalom did. You were waiting all day for that phone call, and you were there, available, ready to pick up the phone. The Rabbeinu Shalom was geyser. The Rabbeinu Shalom decreed that he should pick up the phone and he should call you when you're in the middle of Shemona Esrei. You know what that means? That means that the Rabbeinu Shalom did not want you to answer the call now. That's what it means. The Rabbeinu Shalom didn't want you to answer the call now. If the Rabbeinu Shalom doesn't want me to answer the call now, then why am I agitated that I can't answer the phone? You want to answer the phone when the Rabbeinu Shalom doesn't want you to answer the phone? Do you think it's going to be better for you if you answer the phone when the Rabbeinu Shalom doesn't want you to answer the phone? Obviously, this is the way the Rabbeinu Shalom wanted it to happen. So why are you getting agitated? Don't get agitated. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's wonderful. You could plug the same thing in to 1,000 other of life's daily occurrences. You're running late. You're running late. You have an appointment you have to get to. And this went wrong, and that went wrong, and the other thing went wrong. And you finally get into the car, and you finally turn the keys in the car, and the car doesn't start. You're ready to take your keys. You're ready to throw your keys. You're like a little kid. You want to throw the keys, and you want to stamp your feet, and you want to throw a tantrum. Why? Why? The Rabbeinu Shalom decided that now is not the right time for you to leave. Okay? The Rabbeinu Shalom knows better. The Rabbeinu Shalom knows better. And there could be 100 reasons why the Rabbeinu Shalom wants it to be that way. And you might find out, and you might not find out. One of the classic examples I always like to use are all of those stories that we had on 9/11 when the World Trade Center came crashing down, of those Yidden that were late to work because it was during the Yemei Slichas, and davening took longer because they said Slichas. They said Slichas, they ended up by work late. Because they ended up coming to work late, their lives were saved. So you don't know, but there's one thing that you do know. The one thing that you do know is that you're in the Rabbeinu Shalom's hands. So if you're in the Rabbeinu Shalom's hands, no, so what could be bad? I say that it's very apropos to these days. How many of us are walking around, myself included, with anxiety over this COVID-19, anxiety over the virus, anxiety over the vaccine, anxiety over the efficacy of the vaccine, and the media and the press, they like to stoke our fears. Every time you turn on the radio, every time you look at the news, all you're going to see is There's a new variant, and there's another variant, and there's the UK variant, and the South African variant, and now there's a recombinant variant. Now there's a variant that's the UK variant combined with the South African variant. So now we'll sprinkle in a little Brazilian, and maybe we'll sprinkle in a little Puerto Rican, and a little Japanese, and a little Singapore, and we'll have, we'll have a delicious dish. We'll have, instead of Chinese food, we'll have Chinese, Thai, French, Italian, Brazilian, English virus variants. And does the vaccine work for it? Does the vaccine not work for it? They stoke our fears, and we walk around all anxious and full of anxiety. And, then you go ahead and you get the shot. Oh, when does the shot start to take effect? When do you start to get antibodies? How many days after the first shot? How many days after the second shot? It's not the way to live. That's not the way to live. The way to live is, you wake up in the morning, you say, Moidani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. Amoide. I thank you, Rabbeinu Shalom. And I admit to you that everything that I am and everything that I have and every second of life that I have comes from you and comes from your kindness. And you are geyser that I should wake up this morning. So I'm alive. I'm alive. Baruch Hashem, I'm alive. And if you get up and you feel well, Baruch Hashem. Thank you, Rabbeinu Shalom. I feel good. You use the Beis HaKisei, you come out, you make a bracha Asher Yotzar. And you make a bracha, Roifei Chol Basar, Umafli Lasois. The Rabbeinu Shalom is the Roifei Chol Basar. The Rabbeinu Shalom is the one who brings healing to all flesh. Not only when you're sick. The Rabbeinu Shalom is healing you 24/7. If your kidneys would not be able to filter out the poisons in your blood, you would be poisoned. You hear about somebody in the hospital, oh, his kidneys shut down. That very often is a harbinger of the end. The kidneys shut down. Somebody's liver stops functioning. The liver is also a filter. Oy vey. Oy vey. If there's liver disease, it could be gefährlich. The intestines, the digestive tract. The Rebbeinu Shalom is constantly filtering poisons out of our body. Then we have antibodies. Forget antibodies for this virus. The body is constantly warding off infection. The body is constantly recognizing foreign matter, foreign materials, chasing it out. The Rebbeinu Shalom is a Roifei Chol Basar. The Rebbeinu Shalom is healing us constantly, on a constant basis. Umafli Lasois. And it's wondrous, beyond wonders, how the Rebbeinu Shalom does it. So the Rebbeinu Shalom gives you life. The Rebbeinu Shalom is making you alive right now. The Rebbeinu Shalom is keeping you alive right now. So what can I do now? What can I do? How can I be memale my tafkid? How can I live right now according to the dictates of the Rebbeinu Shalom? The way the Rebbeinu Shalom wants me to live. How can I be Oved Hashem right now? The Rebbeinu Shalom took care of me now. I hope the Rebbeinu Shalom will take care of me tomorrow. Tomorrow, the Rebbeinu Shalom is taking care of me weiter. Okay, we'll be Oved Hashem weiter. Shuv yom echad koydem misascha. You never know when something changes. That can happen at any time. And it doesn't have to be a virus. Nebuch, we lost people during the course of this terrible year with this COVID-19. We lost people, but we lost people in other ways as well. We lost in the yeshiva a Goyen, a Rebbe, a Talmud Chacham, an Oyeves Abriyos, Reb Shimon Mendel, Zechet Tzadik Levracha. We lost him at the young age of 60. It wasn't COVID-19. Well, nothing to do with COVID-19. 3 weeks. He got a diagnosis, 3-4 weeks. He was gone. He had a machla. So we know people, car accidents, nothing to do with COVID-19. Again, when Reb Ruben would give this shmooze, he would always tell over the story. Rav Moshe Zechet Tzadik V'Kadosh Levracha had a son-in-law, Reb Shiskal Zechet Tzadik Levracha. Reb Shiskal was a goyin. He was a goyin. Nebuch passed away very young. Some form of cancer, I don't know exactly what. But Reb Ruben would always tell over the story of how a good friend of his, good friend of Reb Shiskal's, came to visit Reb Shiskal in the hospital. It was soon before Reb Shiskal's P'tira. I think Reb Shiskal was already in a coma at the time. Reb Ruben was with him in the hospital. Reb Ruben left the hospital, he was going home, and when he came out of the hospital, he met this friend who was coming to visit Reb Shiskal. This friend, I believe, was younger than Reb Shiskal, and he seemed to be in perfect health. And when he met Reb Ruben outside of the hospital, he was crying. He was crying. He said, "Oy, this is so terrible. So terrible. A guy in such a special person like Reb Shiskal. A young man, and he's laying in the hospital in such gefährliche condition. Terrible, terrible, terrible." Wouldn't you know it, this friend who was coming to visit Reb Shiskal was nifter, I believe, one day before Reb Shiskal was nifter. You don't know. You don't know. Somebody gets a diagnosis. Somebody gets a frightening diagnosis. The doctors tell him there's nothing we could do. You only have so much and so much time. He walks around very often. He has a death sentence. And other people who don't have a bad diagnosis, they walk around. Everything is fine. Everything is fantastic. Mahechetesa. Mahechetesa. You could have two 50-year-old people, good friends. One of them is not feeling well. He goes to the doctor. The doctor tells him, "I hate to tell you, you have 3 months to live." The other friend, he's the picture of good health. You never know which one is going to go first. No idea. The one who was told that he has 6 months to live could live another 6 years. He could live another 16 years. He could live another 26 years. It was a mistake. We didn't expect this to happen. We didn't expect that to happen. Wow, it's unbelievable. He really took to the treatment. He went into remission. Meantime, the other one could never be in a car accident. You don't know. But there's one thing that you know. What you know is that you're in the Ribbono Shel Olam's hands every minute of every day. That you know. And you know that the Ribbono Shel Olam is a meitiv. You know that ultimately the Ribbono Shel Olam ki chastecha leneged einoi. The Ribbono Shel Olam, we say mahu af ata. Our goal in life, we're supposed to emulate the Ribbono Shel Olam. And what do we say about the Ribbono Shel Olam? Mahu rachum. The same way he's merciful, af ata rachum. You're supposed to be merciful. Mahu chanun. The same way the Ribbono Shel Olam is a chanun. He's gracious, and he does kindness to people even when they don't deserve it. Mahu chanun, af ato chanun. So we know that the Ribbono Shel Olam is a rachman, and we know that the Ribbono Shel Olam is a chanun, and we know that the Ribbono Shel Olam is a bal chesed, and we know that the Ribbono Shel Olam is a meitiv, and we know that the Ribbono Shel Olam loves us, and we know that we're in the Ribbono Shel Olam's hands. So, how are we supposed to have serenity? How are we supposed to go through life? We're supposed to be calm. We're supposed to know that we have achrayasin, we have responsibilities, we have obligations. We have to do what's incumbent upon us to do. We have to try our best. We have to try our best to be mamala our tafkid. We have to try our best to fulfill our obligations and do the things that the Rebbe Olam wants us to do. We have to do our hishtadlus. So if there's a danger, we have to do the proper hishtadlus to protect ourselves from a danger. If the proper hishtadlus to do is to go take a vaccine, so we have to go take a vaccine. If we have to wear a mask, we have to wear a mask. If we have to not attend group settings, if we have to maintain social distancing, so we have to maintain social distancing. Does that mean that the hishtadlus that we do is going to protect us? Should we be anxious before we get a vaccine, and then after we get a vaccine, we should give a sigh of relief and say, Baruch Hashem, the sword of Damocles is not over my head anymore. Now I'm fine. Now I'm on easy street. Now everything is good? No. You're in the hands of the Ribbono Shel Olam before the vaccine, the same way you're in the hands of the Ribbono Shel Olam after the vaccine. And if the Ribbono Shel Olam wants you to get the virus after the vaccine, then chas v'chalila, somebody will be one of those statistical anomalies of somebody who got the virus after the vaccine. And if the Ribbono Shel Olam wants somebody to never get the virus, then he won't get the virus, even if he doesn't take the vaccine. And if the Ribbono Shel Olam wants that you should get the vaccine and you shouldn't get the virus and instead something else should happen, then that'll happen. All you're doing is fulfilling your obligation. All you're doing is you're doing the hishtadlus that you are mechuyev, that you are obligated to do. You're required to do your normal hishtadlus. But don't have betachin in the hishtadlus. Don't have the betachin in Pfizer. Don't have the betachin in Moderna. You have to have betachin in the Borei Olam. You have to know, I did what I had to do. So now, let's put this in perspective. Somebody is walking around. Maybe he's 75 years old. Maybe he has underlying conditions. Maybe he has high blood pressure. He's never had the virus. He's walking around concerned. He's walking around anxious. I hope I don't catch it. I hope I don't catch it. I hope I don't catch it. He's trying to get an appointment for the vaccine. He's looking. I can't get an appointment. I can't get an appointment. I can't get an appointment. He's anxious. Finally, he gets an appointment for the vaccine. It's going to be another 2 weeks. Then it comes the day of the vaccine. He's anxious about taking the vaccine. He's afraid maybe chas v'chalila. He hopes he doesn't react to the vaccine. Then he gets the vaccine. Now he's anxious. It's only the first dose. I'm not covered. Then he gets the second dose. Am I going to get the second dose? Am I not going to get the second dose? He finally gets the second dose. All this time he's been anxious. Why are you anxious? Why are you anxious? There's a dangerous virus out there. Naniach, it's true. There's a dangerous virus out there. Okay. All right. And before the virus, you got into a car and you drove in a car. How many drug addicts are there on the road? How many drunks are there on the road? What percentage of the people driving on the road have smartphones? And they're checking their emails and they're checking their texts. Or they're doing their makeup or they're shaving. And they're driving a guided missile, an unguided missile, at 75 miles an hour in the rain. How many other things are there? How many other risks are there on an everyday basis? But you're in the hands of the Ribbono Shel Olam. There's no reason to be more anxious today than there was to be more anxious 5 years ago. There's no reason to be more anxious today than there was 2 years ago. There's no reason to be more anxious today than yesterday. And if you get the vaccines and you're 2 weeks after your second shot, there's no reason to be less anxious because you got the vaccine. All of this is not negaya. It's the same every single day of your life. You're in the Ribbono Shel Olam's hands. If the Ribbono Shel Olam wants you to be well, you'll be well. If the Ribbono Shel Olam, for whatever reason, wants to put you in sakana, you'll be in sakana. If the Ribbono Shel Olam, whatever the Ribbono Shel Olam wants, that's what's going to happen. The only thing that changes are your chiyuvim. So fine. So if you have a chiyuv to put on a mask, so you'll put on a mask. but you're not in any more danger than you were before. Now, the only caveat that I want to give to you is that in a time of sakana, like we're living through now, you have another obligation. And that is, clearly the Ribbono Shel Olam is demanding something. Clearly the Ribbono Shel Olam is demanding something from the world. So you have an additional obligation to recognize that the Ribbono Shel Olam is demanding something from us, from you, from me. Not just that the Ribbono Shel Olam is demanding something from the nebulous royal we. The Ribbono Shel Olam is demanding something from me. And the Ribbono Shel Olam is demanding something from you. And the Ribbono Shel Olam is demanding something from you. The Ribbono Shel Olam is placing demands on each and every one of us. We have to be cognizant of that. We have to recognize the responsibility and obligation that places upon us to be better, to identify concrete areas in our life, not nebulous things. I'm going to be better. You have to identify something concrete. You have to look at your life and you have to identify something concrete and say, this is something I am going to work on to be better. So that Yehi Hayom, it should come soon, when COVID-19 will be a distant memory, when people will forget about it and everything, you'll be able to say, it was a rough year, but I'm better for it. It was a rough year, but before COVID-19, I came late to Shacharis on most days. After COVID-19, I try very hard to be there before brachas every day, because I recognize the Ribbono Shel Olam shut me out of the shul. The Ribbono Shel Olam closed down the shul. Now I recognize the wonderful thing that we have, the opportunity to go to shul and daven. So now I have a heightened appreciation for shul, and I try to get there before brachas every day. Now I have a heightened appreciation for what it means to say Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah. Who could forget how last year Pesach we didn't daven with the minyan? People come late to shul after the Seder. They're up till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's hard to get out of bed in the morning. Last year we didn't have the option of davening b'tzibur on Pesach. We davened b'yechidus. We davened at home. This year, Mirz Hashem, hopefully Pesach will have the ability to daven in shul. The Ribbono Shel Olam should help us. But you have to have a heightened appreciation for that. Ben Adam L'Chaveroi. Person should have a heightened appreciation of what it means to have interpersonal relationships. The Ribbono Shel Olam separated us one from the other. Maybe the Ribbono Shel Olam wasn't happy with the way we interact. We have to have a heightened appreciation for the value of our interactions, and that our interactions should be Torah-dika interactions. But we have to have concrete things that we should be able to walk away, and we should be able to say it was a hard year, but I'm better for it. I improved myself because of that hard year. But this realization, to have the constant realization that I'm in the hands of the Ribbono Shel Olam, I have to do what I need to do. I have to make the hishtadlus that I have to make. I have to try every day to accomplish everything I could accomplish and to do my utmost. And after that, it's not in my hands. And if something doesn't go the way I wanted it to go, that's fine. That's okay. Because it didn't go the way you wanted it to go, but it went exactly the way the Ribbono Shel Olam wanted it to go. And the Ribbono Shel Olam's way is better than your way. This, Rabbi Say, is how to achieve true serenity. The true serenity is when you could be serene, you could be at peace, because you know, I'm doing what I can, and I trust in the Ribbono Shel Olam. Then you could sit and you could sip a coffee when it's appropriate to sip a coffee. When you have You're allowed to take a few minutes to relax. That's okay. You can take a few minutes to relax. So when you take a few minutes to relax during your day, you see, if you don't have the emunah and bitachon, then even when you take 5 minutes to relax, you can't relax. Because you take 5 minutes to relax, you take the coffee, you sit down on the porch, and you say, oh, what am I going to do about this? And what am I going to do about that? And I didn't take care of this yet. And I didn't take care of that yet. And what's going to happen with this? And I wonder how that's going to turn out. And I wonder how that's going to turn out. And what's my boss going to say about this? And what's going to happen by that meeting tomorrow? And what's going to happen with my husband's job? So even when you have 5 minutes to relax, you can't relax. But if you have emunah and bitachon, then the same things could be going on in life. But you take the coffee, you sit back, you sip the coffee, and you say, what's going to happen with the meeting with my boss? I'm sitting pretty. The Ribono Shel Olam is in charge. Exactly what the Ribono Shel Olam wants to happen, that's what's going to happen. No problem. Everything is fine. What's going to happen with my husband's job? Exactly what the Ribono Shel Olam wants to happen. That's what's going to happen. I did mine. I made the arrangements that I'm supposed to make. I made the hishtadlus, the reasonable hishtadlus that I'm expected to make. All of the things that I'm supposed to do, I did. Now it's up to Borei Olam. Hu Borei umanig l'chol habruim. Nothing happens without him. He's holding the strings on everything. And I can trust him. I can trust him. There's no reason for me not to trust him. I could trust him implicitly. There's no reason at all why not. No matter what happens, I could trust him. That, Rabbi Say, is how to achieve serenity. I think David HaMelech says it very succinctly in 4 words. Ki chastecha leneged einoi. The underpinnings of being able to live this way is to constantly acknowledge the chasadim, the kindness of the Ribono Shel Olam. Stop yourself right now. Take 5 minutes and look even just at one day. Look at one day and say, what chasadim did the Ribono Shel Olam do for me today? What kindness did the Ribono Shel Olam do for me today? Well, Baruch Hashem, I woke up this morning. Kindness number 1. Baruch Hashem, I felt pretty good today. Kindness number 2. Baruch Hashem, I think about it. You know, I had a pretty good day today. I accomplished this, I accomplished that, I accomplished this, I accomplished that. All Chastei Hashem. Chastei Hashem. The Ribono Shel Olam gave me the ability. The Ribono Shel Olam made that things worked out right. Maybe there's something that you were worried about, that you were worried today. How is it going to work out? It worked out well. Baruch Hashem. It was a beautiful sunny day today. The weather was very nice today. It was very pleasant to be outside. Another chesed. There's chasadim upon chasadim upon chasadim. Maybe you spoke to your kid today and you had a pleasant phone call. Chastei Hashem. Baruch Hashem, the kids are doing well. The Eniklach are doing well. Chastei Hashem. Just chasadim upon chasadim upon chasadim upon chasadim upon chasadim. So the Ribono Shel Olam is doing chesed with you every day. Every day, 24/7. The Ribono Shel Olam is doing chasadim, 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 chasadim. What did you do for the Ribono Shel Olam today? Did you do a lot for the Ribono Shel Olam today? Halavai, you did. I made a bracha. I benched. I made an asher yatzar. I davened chakras. I davened mincha. I davened ma'ariv. I learned the daf. I did a chesed for somebody. Okay. I guarantee you the Ribono Shel Olam did more for you than you did for him. So the Ribono Shel Olam is taking care of you. When you get used to and you're in the practice and in the habit of seeing the ki chastecha l'neged einoi, it becomes much, much easier to walk down that road to achieving what we really want, to really achieving that serenity, that equanimity, that calmness, that I'm not agitated and I'm not worried and I'm not upset and I'm not fachatted and I'm not rushed and I'm not under pressure and I'm not under stress. whatever malady you want, whatever specialist you go to, whatever doctor you go to, whatever somebody is suffering from, the doctor looks at you and the doctor says, well, let me tell you what a few contributing factors are to this disease. Stress. You go to a dermatologist, complain about acne, stress. Ulcers, stress. Heart disease, stress. Insomnia, stress. Cancer, stress. Stress. Stress is on the list. High blood pressure, stress. Stress is on the list of everything. There's no ailment to which stress is not a contributing factor. So how do you get rid of stress? This is how you get rid of stress. The way you get rid of stress is by recognizing HaKol bidei Shamayim. Everything is in the hands of Shamayim. Ein oid milvadoi. When we say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hashem Echad, Hashem is one. Hashem is the one source of everything. Hashem is the one source of everything that happens. If it's aggravation, it came from the Rebbeinu Shalom. The Rebbeinu Shalom set it up that way. Whatever it is, the Rebbeinu Shalom set it up. So okay, so I'll trust in the Rebbeinu Shalom, and I won't have stress. Not saying that I don't have stress. It's a life's work. It's a life's work. But this is the way to get there. This is how to get to that stress-free life. Okay? I thought it was going to be shorter. Baruch Hashem. Once you get started, you don't want to stop. So whatever it was that I was supposed to take care of, and now I didn't. So, okay. Baruch Hashem. HaKol b'dei Shamayim. The Rebbeinu Shalom wanted the share to go longer, so it'll be fine. It'll work its way out. It's good to see everyone. Thank you for joining me for limud HaTorah. The source of limud HaTorah should be Megan against Klal Yisrael. The Rebbeinu Shalom should send Yeshuas and Refuas and Parnasa to everyone. The Rebbeinu Shalom should protect everyone. The Rebbeinu Shalom should bring us. It's Yemei Adar. We're coming to Purim. Mishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. The Rebbeinu Shalom should bring a ruach of simcha, a ruach of tanchumin to the world, and especially to Klal Yisrael, B'chol Makom Shehem, and in Eretz Yisrael, where they're having such a hard time. The Rebbeinu Shalom should bring them simcha. The Rebbeinu Shalom should take all of the tzaras and just poof, blow it all away very, very quickly.